bracket of thinking that I'm stupid, like this memory came up for me. So it's kind of like I think a deep-seated belief that maybe I haven't fully gotten over, that I am not smart enough to do basic math. And I can also remember times where in, relationships that I've had, friendships that I've had, where I've felt really insecure because of the way the other person has made me feel stupid and called me stupid or made me feel stupid, but that's totally on me, like, to allow them to make me feel that way. But I remember that was a big insecurity that I had. Okay, moving on. So the next thing is preparation and organization. So I struggled with this a little bit because I have talked about this on the podcast in the past. I have struggled. This is definitely something that is a major racket for me. Preparation and organization. I'm not the most prepared person in the world, not the most organized person in the world. I have missed flights. I've missed boats. I think I leave too many things to chance. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like I'm a little bit in the clouds sometimes, just trusting that everything's going to work out in my favor, and it always does. But sometimes I learn this the hard way of I do need to be more organized, more prepared, and kind of more, I'm a little bit too in the clouds. I don't know what the way to say it is, but this came up for me in times where, I should have prepared, or I should have studied up on the information that I needed to know as a tour guide more. I was definitely at different times I felt like I was relying on Simon to know everything, because of course he does. But there was a lot of things that I needed to know and that I didn't really know. And I knew some things, I didn't know everything, and I could have been far more prepared for the job than I was. So so I realized that, and it came up for me, and I learned it. And moving forward, I'm going to be more prepared. I'm going to be not more prepared, I'm going to be prepared, because when you say more, that's not really measurable. And yeah, I'm going to be prepared. So yeah, I'm not surprised that came up for me over this training, because this training tour, because it's definitely a big thing that comes up for me in my life. It has screwed me over many times in my personal life through traveling and through everything. So I'm not surprised, and it's definitely something that I'm going to stay on top of, because I need to be prepared and organized at all times. I'm organizing and preparing everything for, around 25 people, every single time. It's just me. Nobody else is responsible for this but me. Well, obviously there's people behind the scenes kind of keeping everything, organizing things as well, but it's up to me to make sure everybody gets to all the flights on time, and and all the things in between of everything. So I'm going to have lots of practice working on my organization skills, and I'm looking forward to it. Sort of. So I noticed that I lose my things a lot. I'm kind of sad because I've lost a few really special pieces of clothing. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm actually quite sad. Not really anymore, but at the time I was kind of sad about it. So just things like this. I've lost a few things of mine that I lose things. I've noticed a lot, and so I need to be more on top of that. And also, Filipino style has been rubbing off on me a little bit. So Filipino style, there's should I say Filipino time? And maybe not Filipino time. Filipino style, just in different ways of being a little bit too lax. You could say Filipino style for many different things, but in this case, for me, it's being a little too chilled and not so organized. And I think it's just because I've been living in the Philippines for, 4 months. I've been living in Southeast Asia for 10 months or something. And either not working or working as an artist, where I'm kind of just in charge of myself and working as an artist, but it's not like it's a legitimate job. I'm just kind of trading artwork for whatever I need. So, I'm only responsible for myself. There's not a whole lot of responsibility with that. So I'm not really used to having a a boss or a really strict schedule. Other than being in that leadership training, like, other than that, I'm not really, like, it's been a while since I've had, like, a legitimate job. So I've been kind of living on Filipino time. I've been on Filipino style, living with Filipinos, and, like, I love them. But yeah, definitely, like, they are far more chilled than we are in the Western world. Like, they're they're not as organized, or they're just more chilled out about things. They're not so prepared and all the time. And so, like, I'm kind of, like, on that Filipino style wavelength of, like, just being a little too chilled and not so prepared and organized. So let's see. So let's move into those are some of the rackets that have come up for me, and I'm really thankful that I was able to reflect so deeply on them, and I'm still reflecting on them, because now I'm going to be able to really notice them as they come up for me in the next tour, and the next tour, and the next tour. I'm sure they're going to come up in one way or another, but as long as I'm continuously working on it and noticing it as it comes up, and thinking about how, okay, in the moment. So now that I'm able to see it in past tense, like, I'm able to look back and say, okay, this came up there and this came up there. Next time, maybe I'll be able to see it as it's happening. Oh, okay, so this is coming up for me now. I'm going to shift this. And then the next time, maybe it won't come up at all. Or maybe it'll be just about to come up, and then I'm going to say, actually, no, I'm not going to entertain that, So I'm really thankful that I am self-aware enough to really notice these limiting beliefs and limiting mindsets that I still have. And I know that I'll be able to control it as it comes up next. One more racket that I just almost forgot to talk about, and this is actually one that definitely came up for me almost every single day, was my self-control around food. So I've basically cut out all substances from my life. Like, I don't drink very much. I don't really smoke much weed anymore, mostly because I'm not in the Philippines. Like, I can't do that out here. I will go to jail. But yeah, so I don't smoke anymore. And I actually specifically found, like, since I stopped, like, smoking, like, I used to vape sometimes, and as soon as I stopped vaping, especially, I found that I was definitely more, like, addicted to food. Not, like, full on addicted, but definitely found that food has been my main addiction. So, I feel like everyone's addicted to something, and I'm definitely addicted to food. Like, I think about it all the time. And I found that I noticed, oh my gosh, I looked at photos of myself and this is definitely not a bad way. This is actually I'm actually really happy about this. Like, I've looked at photos of myself from when I first started traveling in Thailand, and I was like, whoa, I've gained so much weight. And this is really exciting for me, because I've actually kind of always wanted to be a bit more filled out. Like, I didn't really want to be as skinny as I was. But compared to how I looked in high school, like, how I looked in the beginning of this trip was still filled out compared to then. Because in high school, I was super grossly skinny. But I didn't realize how skinny I still really, really was until I look at a photo of myself now versus a photo of myself in Thailand. Like, it's huge. And I weighed myself and I gained 15 pounds, which is, like, pretty decent. Like, I was never able to gain that much weight before. So I'm, like, really happy about that, because I feel like I'm a healthy weight now. So it's not really about the weight aspect of it, because I'm quite happy with that. But it's more like I just feel like I have really little self-control around food. And I'm constantly always around food. Like, a lot of the time we're at buffet style, meals, and I can eat as much as I choose to eat. But for me, unfortunately, I have a hard time saying, okay, that's enough food, I'm going to stop eating. Even when I'm full, like, I continue to eat and eat and eat. And I've definitely, like, really made myself sick. Not to the point of throwing up, but just, like, felt really horrible just from eating so much. And, I've had to, like one night I had to go home. We were all out at the club, because oftentimes we're clubbing. Almost every night we're out at the bar or out clubbing. And I had to go home, like, one of the last nights I had to go home because I had eaten too much dinner and I was sick from it. So it's really something that's coming up for me, that I don't have very much self-control around food, and that's another story that I'm telling myself, and that's leading me to continue to have these poor eating habits. So I'm going to break the story right now, and I'm just going to control myself. I'm going to eat and the right amount of food, and not be eating everyone's leftovers. Like, I'm definitely the one to eat everyone's leftovers at the end of the meal. Like, all of that, like, that's not going to happen anymore. I'm definitely going to end that right here, that limiting habit that I have, because it's quite unhealthy. So back to the positives. I'm staying focused on my intentions through this job. Like, the best way for me to get past all of these limiting mindsets is for me to stay focused on what is my intention right now. What is my intention with this job? And to remind, I don't know if did I even talk about this? I think I did. Yeah, I did talk about my intentions on my couple episodes ago on my intentions for this job. But to reiterate, a huge intention that I have is to impact people, is not just to show these people a good time and to just help them distract themselves from their regular lives and, have a good time and throw a good party and all of that. Like, I really want to get deeply connected with these people. I want to impact them so that in such a way that they decide to go back to their lives, whatever their lives look like outside of this tour. But as soon as this tour ends, that's the first day of the rest of their lives. And not everybody is living the life of their dreams. Some people are, and I love that. And some people are not. And I really just want the people, especially the people who are not living the life of their dreams, to just finish this tour and to start creating the life of their dreams starting right then. To think of this not just as a vacation, but as soon as rather than being kind of dreading the idea of going home and leaving this paradise land, to go home and think of it as a blank canvas where they can create whatever they want. Because that's the truth. That is 100% the truth. You can go home and create whatever life of you want, the life of your dreams. And I hope to be able to plant that seed in people. And just however I'm able to impact somebody, there's many ways that it can happen, but I just want to impact other people with my vibration, with my energy. It doesn't have to be any other way than just being myself and having that impact them in however it does. Another big intention I have is around environmental impacts. I'm really proud to be working for this company because True Travels is very aware of there is doing their best to be carbon neutral, like not be making a carbon footprint. Like, they're doing things to reverse their carbon footprint in a way. So they're working along with that, and Gemma and I are both really passionate about this. It's one of the main reasons that we decided that we want to start working in tourism, actually, is to make these changes that we want to see. So we're working with them, and I already kind of thought of so many different things. Like, I'm talking to Simon, like, okay, this needs to be like, I want to change this and this and this. Like, this is what we need to do next. And then he's like, okay, yeah, I hear you. You're 100% correct, and we're working on it. And like, take a step back. Like, you technically aren't even hired yet. Like, this is your probation period. Like, okay, like, focus on being an amazing tour guide, and as soon as you're settled, like, then you can kind of tell us, like, don't start telling us what to do, essentially, like, before you're even in, you know what I mean? And that makes total sense. So I was able to step back after hearing him say that and just be like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm gonna I am skipping a few steps here, and so I do have ideas for how we can also improve, but I also know that they're already working on it. Like, I'm really proud to be working for people who I feel like they have a very similar values to me around this, so that's amazing. So those are my main intentions, and I'm just going to stay focused on those as I continue this job, and I'll be just fine. Those intentions are going to outrule any rackets that may get in the way of those intentions being made a reality. So, this will be, really good practice for putting others before myself. This is a really good piece of advice I was given by Simon, which was, don't do what you want to do, or don't do what's best for you, do what's best for the group, or don't do what you necessarily want, do what you think that the rest of the group is going to want to do, and that's not always going to be what you want to do. So don't choose the restaurant that you necessarily like, do what you think that everybody will like, and don't pick just the place that you want to go to if it's going to be inconvenient for the whole process of the travel. So this actually was quite helpful. It seems quite simple, but for me this is going to be really good practice, because I've actually, throughout my life, I have struggled with putting others before myself. Like, I've actually, in the past, been a bit of a self-centered person, and I still, of course, I'm not completely over this. Like, this can still come up for me many times. And it did throughout this course, or throughout this